This is webinar number 1 of a 3-part series looking at applying solution-oriented approaches within the Learning Community Joint Support Team Forum. This video will give a quick overview of the 10 solution-oriented principles, values which guide us as education staff in bringing better outcomes for the staff, parents, carers, children and young people with whom we work. This is webinar 1 of a 3-part series. This short video will think about what solution-oriented principles are and how we can embody this in our practice in meetings. The second webinar will look at the roles and the format of a solution-oriented meeting such as the JST. And finally, the third webinar will look at goal attainment scaling as a method for setting desired outcomes and measuring progress at JST reviews. A solution-oriented approach is made up of 10 core principles. As educators, we will already be using lots of solution-oriented tools in our practice, things like finding young people's strengths and using scaling, but having a good understanding of all the underlying principles will then allow the strategies to be used more naturally in our practice. On the surface, these principles all seem straightforward, but once we start to unpack them, we can begin to see how difficult they may be to embed and how critical they are to facilitating better outcomes for our young people. First is listen to the person, listen for the possibility. It's important to acknowledge and validate the people involved and how they've gotten to where they are, while always looking for opportunities to support them in exploring other possible ways forward. People generally will benefit from feeling that they have had a chance to tell their story and be listened to. This is necessary to hear challenges and risks first, to allow them to then move on and consider possible solutions. How often have we been in meetings where people sharing difficulties, whether parents, staff or young people, have needed space to vent and to tell their pain narrative before we can begin to plan next steps? When looking for solutions, it's often more effective to brainstorm and think outside the box, opening up all the possibilities for future change. Believing that possibilities are infinite allows us to widen our horizons in thinking of possible solutions. The second principle is people have the necessary resources to make changes. Although at times of stress and difficulty, we may feel that we have little ability to improve our situation, we are individuals who have a great many skills and competencies that we use all the time. Recognizing the skills that we have and that we use in less difficult situations can allow us to consider how we might use these skills in other ways to initiate positive changes in more problematic situations. Each person has a range of competencies which are adequate to deal with issues that they already face, and our mission as solution-oriented practitioners is to help the person discover their own resources, not necessarily always to try and help them directly with a solution. Recognizing successes can be a powerful way to identify existing resources and strengths, which can be achieved through what we call problem-free talk. Also, recognizing that we have used existing skills and qualities in less difficult situations creates the possibility of using them in other ways to assist in current difficulties. Principle number 3 is that everyone has their own ways of solving problems. Everybody has had a unique set of experiences in their lives which blend with their own unique personality. Because of these differences, a solution that works for one person will not necessarily work for another, even when in a similar situation. With that said, advice given by someone on the basis of their personal experience will generally not work for others in that complex situation, but supporting someone to find a solution that works for them can be very empowering and successful. Now, we as reflective educators need to respect and cooperate with people's often idiosyncratic and unique ways of solving problems. This can be challenging in a school context. The principle here moves us away from more generalizable, handy hints about addressing behavior towards an appreciation that individualized approaches are more suitable. The fourth is no sign up, no change. Collaboration enhances change. Individuals should be involved in any discussion or activity aimed at creating a solution pattern for them. Sometimes, however, we engage in discussion about a situation or a difficulty which involves someone else, and we don't involve them in these discussions. An example would be adults having meetings about children and young people without involving the young person in direct discussion or seeking their views. Ensuring equal participation of all relevant people also enhances the possibility of change and positive outcomes. With respect to sign-up, unless we acknowledge the need for change and agree to the required changes, individuals facing problems will not participate in the identified goals towards a different future. By engaging in a meaningful way in visualizing positive futures and identifying the benefits that these changes may have for us, we will be more likely to sign up and agree to necessary changes in our behaviour that will lead to this preferred future. Therefore, it's vital that we give consideration as to how to facilitate maximum sign-up to change among all people involved in the situation causing difficulties. Number 5 is that language shapes and moulds how we make sense of the world. It's important to be aware of the language we use in any situation. Words are not neutral and can be used to create meaning and enhance change, or, if not careful, can contribute to existing problems. We are all engaged in a constant process of making sense of what we experience. We use language to achieve this. Thus, the one set of circumstances can mean different things to different people. Some situations will be regarded as problems by some, while others will be able to cope with them or even find them acceptable. Therefore, it's the way that we make sense of things through description and language that is the important element in a situation which requires change. Adopting a solution-oriented approach involves people engaging in the process of making sense of what they hear and see when in conversation with the person. We can help the person construct a new perspective or way of looking at the problematic situation being described. In this way, new possibilities for change can be revealed, and we can join together to co-create a context for change. Emphasizing the positives, the possibilities, and being future-oriented are all powerful ways to use language in a solution-oriented way. Reframing issues is another effective way of using language to create solutions. This can bring to mind new ways of viewing scenarios which bring hope and possibility. Principle number 6 is a focus on future possibilities and solutions enhances change. By keeping our focus on possible positive futures, we give ourselves a clear vision of how we want things to be. By being clear about where we want to be, we can more easily identify the changes in behaviours in ourselves and in our situations that will provide a route to achieving this positive future. Spending time discussing what a person would like to happen instead of the problem itself is one of the most effective ways to resolve a problem. Imagining and vividly describing tomorrow is a good example. If you don't know where you want to be, how can you get there? Charting progress towards the future makes it seem much more manageable. We can do this through focusing on language which is future-oriented and leaves the problem in the past. We already mentioned how allowing some space for difficulties to be vented is important, but what's different about a solution-oriented conversation is that they actively spend much more time on looking to the future than to the past. Number 7 is that there are always exceptions to the problem. When we are surrounded by difficulties, we tend to notice features of the environment that confirm our problem-dominated view. To successfully move towards change, it's important to refocus our attention towards strengths and capabilities. In any situation, no matter how difficult, there will be times when things work some of the time, when things aren't quite so bad, or when things are just a little bit better. These times, known as exceptions to the problem, should be explored in an attempt to identify the possible solution pathways, which will be the keys to effective problem resolution. Once a person comes to view these exceptions as meaningful, they can begin to change the way they view the problem and the relationship to the problem. The task is to help the person refocus on times when they are not dominated by difficulties and to get a detailed description of what was happening at that time when the exception occurred and to link this to the person's own behaviour. As you try to act out this principle in your practice, listen out for any superlative statements, things like always, never, every time, all the time, and query them. Ask things like, tell me about a time when it was less like this, or when are things better? And then build on any exceptions, situations, and times when things went well. The eighth principle is that small changes can lead to bigger changes. At times, some problems can seem quite overwhelming, and we may feel that these need significant input to provide a solution. However, solutions can begin with small changes in behaviours or in situations that in themselves can have a knock-on effect that will enhance the solution pattern further down the line, beginning the snowball effect of progress. Small changes in people's lives can move into bigger and bigger changes. Change is often about making haste slowly and about challenging unrealistic pressures to achieve immediate results of large magnitude. Remember the ripple effect. No progress is insignificant. We, as solution-oriented practitioners, strive to encourage others not to be overwhelmed by the scale of the issues involved, and rather to focus on actions within our immediate control and on actions which move matters forward, however small the progress might seem. Number 9 is, if it works, do more of it. If it doesn't work, try something else. Often we continue to engage in activities that do not improve the situation for ourselves or for others. We may not, however, reflect on the outcomes of our actions, but continue them out of habit or routine, often because it's how things have always been done here. If this is the case, we should consider what other options are open to us and which alternative actions might prove to be more successful. As solution-oriented educators, we need to pay attention to repetitive patterns and consider what we can change about these patterns. Perhaps notice what's being done when things are going better and encourage more of that. We need to challenge what we usually do, examine the effectiveness of current practice, and to imagine other alternatives. The final solution-oriented principle is that the problem is the problem, not the person. The language we use can give messages to others about our attitudes and beliefs. When talking about ourselves or others, it's better to always refer to the person in positive terms, even if we're not happy with certain behaviours. An example would be keeping the problem at the centre of our speech, such as, the behaviour of leaving the classroom has been difficult for the staff team to address, as opposed to, he is unmanageable in the classroom. The latter can be harmful to relationships and introduce unhelpful narratives around young people. Problems are the result of very complex relationships and interacting circumstances. To view them as anybody's fault is not helpful. Depersonalizing problems allows everyone to work on possible solutions patterns together. Finally, talking about the problem often just makes it more of a problem. Thinking of problems as something that affects us, but is not us, can be a helpful framing. Talking about problems in the past tense can facilitate this. So why use a solution-oriented approach in the Learning Community Joint Support Team? The world of GERFEC gives us a multi-agency framework for making sure that we all work together, bringing our own specialist skills to a team approach to getting it right for every child. That's why you're all at the table. Each professional potentially brings a different perspective to the child's world, helping put all the bits of the jigsaw of the child's life together with potential solutions. The National Practice Model's 3 tools, the Wellbeing Wheel and its Shinari Wellbeing Indicators, My World Triangle, and the Resilience Matrix, give us a shared framework to assess and plan to get it right for the young person holistically. A shared assessment of the whole child that uses a shared language is the result. LCJSTs are our key tool for getting it right. They are our multi-agency discussion forum at a local level. They are the key to the success of getting it right at a local level, without which we won't get it right at a national level. They are particularly important for making a difference to young people in Glasgow, where we have a higher than average level of complexity and challenge. How do we make sure that we get real outcomes, changes in a child's life that will make a difference? Discussions need to focus on ways forward, having recognised and acknowledged the particular challenges in the child's world, recognising the child's resilience and strengths as further supports are identified. Lastly, how do we make sure that our LCJSTs, our local driver for multi-agency discussions, are as effective as they can be, given that we are all busy people? The answer is to make them as solution-oriented as possible, using the principles and practice being covered in these webinars. For more information on solution-oriented approaches, you can Google search Solution-Oriented Approaches Glasgow, or find us via the Glasgow Educational Psychology Service website at the following Glow Scotland blog location.